kind of the fear, the pain have become your strength.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And how did you I know you have your little hand as your friend. I heard you make that your friend where you talk to.
Yeah.
Is that one of the way to go through what you went through?
I think that for me, it was like important to see the humor in things, and like my hand looked like a dinosaur, so said he was my best friend. And at 4 years old, he would like talk to me, and I'd like feed him food, for instance. And it was like just a way of like expressing the idea that like not only is difference a normal thing, but it can actually be a beautiful thing as well. And it took me a long time to learn to accept my body the way it is. I think the moment really turned when I started playing music and really just using my body in a way that was never about the looks. Because in the end, it's like, your body is not there to look pretty or look handsome all the time. It's there to be useful. You use your hands, use your entire body to be able to create some type of purpose that raises our level of thinking, uplifts spirits in some way. And that is the most important thing to view or see when you look at other people. It's like, okay, the exterior is one thing, but like eventually all of that fades in the end. So like, my body will be with me my entire life. So what am I going to do to continually know that actually not only is it a beautiful thing, but it can become more beautiful based on the choices that I make over time.
So you found music along the way. How did you chance upon that?
I was 10 years old, and our music teacher wanted us to play the recorder, and I didn't have enough fingers for it. So we looked at different options like the trumpet, which was too loud. We tried singing, and I didn't have a great voice. So we chose the violin as a bit of an experiment and a risk, because we didn't really know what was going to happen. And yet at the same time, we knew that like maybe we start from the most impractical, yet the most high ceiling aspect to what to do. And because by virtue of just taking that risk, and it was a risk that was based out of ignorance in a way, because my parents didn't know enough about music to know that like there were a lot more challenges than what they even knew about. If they had just said, oh, well, trumpet's practical, for instance, so you just do that, at least it's music, it would have been okay, I'm sure. But the reason why I'm able to do something innovative is because perhaps it was an ignorance of what was impossible. And I think that in some ways, it's like, I want to continue transferring that into my life to like, my mom always used to say, ignore the bullies and the naysayers in the end. And I think it's like, also like, sometimes acknowledge that this idea of like what is possible can be a complete falsehood as well. And to like always try to see past that mirage as much as possible.
Oh, so maybe show us, what did you have to go through when you first started? I think it must be difficult, right?
Yeah, so I have a spatula here, an adaptation that helps me sort of move the bow back and forth. And it's a piece of Velcro that just goes on like this. And it fits on very much like a shoe, almost. And from there, this is sort of just the adaptation to help my bow move back and forth. And I have like this piece of plaster here that I put on the side, sort of make it nice and comfortable. And it didn't work right away. Like when I first played, it's like any other violin, it's just scratch, 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 sort of deal. And my brothers would complain that it was like a dying cat in the household and everything like that. So eventually, it came to a point where I realized it wasn't necessarily the problem with the adaptation, but it was really my mindset of like, am I going to want to continue improving on this because I love to do it? And because violin was something that wasn't based on how I looked, it was tremendously motivating to say that I could play in an orchestra and like no one cares, whether you're doing it with one hand, it just has to sound good. Sort of deal, yeah. So I kept on working and just like continued to move the bow. and finding tiny nuances in terms of like how to express with the bow. I always like to say that like the bow for most violinists is the paintbrush. And first you start with very like kids drawings, you just do big scribbles all over the place and it just goes like out of control. You know, back and forth, and back and forth. And eventually you just keep on learning tools. Like the great thing about arts is that like you're present in the moment, you're trying to express second by second the best version of yourself. And I think that was certainly the case for me. Did you hear something?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So one of the first pieces that I played was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, for instance, and it went like this. And eventually through practice, you just work on the bow, just demonstrate like. And then you can make it more, like you start less, slower, and then more. For instance, and then you think about like, how do you translate this idea like at the highest possible levels of what you're saying? You're looking up and like this field of stars. You're actually wondering about this mystery, about like what life is, and like the stars coming from outside of this like planet, and yet you're still part of this universe. And like human beings have an incredible way of just like trying to touch that all the time and feeling fulfilled. So eventually it becomes